Deliver me from my enemies, Father in heaven. Deliver me from the workers of iniquity, and save me from the devils of blood. Ah! Then they should be gone.
Don't get so close.
It's okay. It's working.
Get back.
Don't be such a...
Hurry!
You wanna step to me? I kick you in the knees. I'm the baddest, meanest, mad dog mother you're ever gonna see. Blink twice, you miss me. 6, they try to kiss me. Suckers, they see me and flee me. After I kick them in the shorts, get lost, dorks, 'cause you all tidbits, but me, I'm the shiznits.
And we are here once again with a Pichy and Palscast. Once again with my friends Louis and Matt. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
The last 2 times I've asked how everyone is, I would like you to instead provide me with a gesture to describe how you're feeling right now. We have some hands in the air from Louis and from Matt. Okay, he is covering his eyes with shame. I was hoping you would both flip me off, so I could tell you that you're in fact doing it wrong. Yes, tonight we watched 2 films. We watched The Gate and The Book of Henry. Or to put it another way, we watched a film for children that is a horror film, and a film with children that is horrifying.
We'll let you work that one out.
But it's The Book of Henry, that's the latter. So there's a bunch of reasons why I put these 2 together. Firstly, they both have characters named Glenn, which is a bizarre little connection, but what I want to do now that we're done with Fantasia is look at films in pairs and see how the context of viewing one can impact reading and interpretation of the other, and fiddle around with things like that. A couple of things to bring up is The Book of Henry. In a year in which Bright and the Snowman came out, The Book of Henry is the worst film of 2017. Bright's a cowardly film, and The Snowman's an unfinished film, but The Book of Henry is so fundamentally broken in its concept that it defies logic and reason, and even emotional grounding, to become a very competently assembled film that is just so bafflingly insane it has to be seen to be believed.
I think I saw it, and I still don't think I believe it. I don't know if that phrase even works in this.
Hey, I mean, I've seen it twice, and I'm pretty sure I've seen it more times.
This was my 3rd time.
There you go.
I very firmly feel this is the next The Room.
How did you survive?
Well, I learned that plywood is only slightly thicker than the human skull.
I will admit, I did have a moment during the first half of the movie where I found myself enjoying it.
Oh, there's some incredibly funny stuff, especially when you know where it's all leading, and just how stupid those things are in that full film's context.
Oh, absolutely.
The next The Room is tough, just because it's such a different kind of bad.
Oh,
but...
it's different from almost every other film that's in the bad film canon, of the enjoyably bad films that are out there.
Yeah, it's actually kind of confusingly bad. Like, I really struggled to work out. I knew that it was wrong, like, as I was watching it, like a general feeling of wrongness, and this is just not correct. But I was just baffled by it for so long while watching it.
Something that we might get to looking at, I've got some ideas of ways to approach this theme, is that a way that you successfully depict crazy people in film is you don't have people who just spout gibberish or do crazy hammy things. what you do is depict someone who is reasonable and coherent, but it's only when you get a certain piece of information which opens up their worldview that you understand that there is something in their worldview and how they see things that's so fundamentally broken that everything else just collapses under closer scrutiny once you understand this.
Yeah.
And that's Colin Trevorrow and Greg, I've forgotten his surname.
Horowitz?
The writer and director, yeah, Greg Horowitz.
Yeah.
The writer and the director of this film. And certainly if you go look at other Colin Trevorrow films like Jurassic World, how he views men and how he views women. There's a lot of Book of Henry in how he depicts a lot of romantic relationships.
Yeah. I'm remembering that now with Jurassic World, and
Yeah.
people didn't, and they were upset. With the
People
depiction,
noticed
but they
it.
didn't. I think they worked out just the breadth of it.
Yeah. Well, this one brings it full out into full force.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Which passion projects can do, I suppose.
Yep.
I mean,
That's certainly something I'll be looking forward to when we do 2 Brad Bird films at some point this year.
ooh.
Yeah, that could be fun.
So I think we should start off with the gate. Like, I'm fine. Let's get the gate out of the way. So, I'm fine with not doing completely just straight reviews and linear discussion like we've been doing. That's because we were doing like 20 short films in rapid succession. I'm fine for us to just bounce back and forth with the way that we talk about the films we've seen. And one of the things that I always think about when I see The Gate, I first saw this when I was about 10 or 11, because our family had a video shop and weird videos would pop up and things that I would just grab when they were out of the shop because they're damaged or about to go into the shop, that sort of thing. That's how I first saw this, but in the years since, there is a very famous bad film that is part of generally the bad film fandom canon called Troll 2. If you've never seen Troll 2, it's a scream. Your brain will cause your face, if you've never seen any of it, to make this certain look of slack-jawed confusion the whole time, because the film is incomprehensible. Again, because you don't understand the worldview. Your brain will make the same face watching the Book of Henry. The Gate, your brain won't do this, because it's a fairly straightforward, easy-to-grasp film, and is pretty good at certain things. But a lot of the execution and how it handles its horror, and its blocking, and its cinematography, really reminds me of Troll 2.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Fortunately, I barely remember Troll 2, other
So-
than just general.
I think the key here is to understand the theming, the theming and ideas behind Troll 2 and The Gate, because they're both horror films, and they're both horror films that are very viewable for children.
Sure.
The thing is, The Gate is a film that, at its core, it's playing on the fear that children have of something going wrong and their parents aren't around to help them. And this is established right from the get-go. One of the greatest strengths of The Gate is how consistent it is with its tone. It opens with these blood-red text on a black background, followed by a sequence where the main character comes home and there is no one there. There's nothing happening in the house, it's just completely empty. There's this wonderful little side moment that you barely notice most of the time, but if you've seen it a couple of times, you'll definitely pick up where there's a TV playing in the background. It's showing a cooking show, and a sequence of putting some eggs in boiling water to boil them. But just as he's leaving the room, the way that the eggs in the pan line up in the frame, it looks like a pair of eyes leering at the main character as he walks out of the room. It's really subtle and nice, easily the most subtle moment in the film, but it just really helps just the tension and the unease of being alone that this film wants to convey. And of course the kid wakes up and it turns out it was a nightmare, but very much it's playing to this fear of being left alone, and then this sets up how the rest of the film is about demons attacking while the parents are away for the weekend. And the only people with authority in the kid's life at the time are actively preventing him early on from making contact with his parents until it's too late. Whereas Troll 2... Yes, I've got to get the comparison point here. Troll 2 is a film where the fear is that vegetarians exist. Yeah, and it sounds utterly absurd to say it like this. This is why Troll 2 is broken. Not just because it's written and directed by an Italian man who can't speak English with an entirely English production crew. It's not just that. That's an execution problem, but the core problem with Troll 2 is that it's trying to make you scared of vegetarians.
I'm gonna tighten my belt one extra notch to deal with the hunger pains.
We're vegetarians here in Neilborg. Have some milk. Drink it. Take it to your friends.
Yeah, I can certainly see the connection now, I guess, with talking about the Gates and Troll 2, and then we'll be talking about Book of Henry.
Yeah.
In terms of the difference between getting something wrong in execution versus something that's wrong in just conception.
In concept.
And with Troll 2 and Book of Henry, it's the latter, it's concept.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say the Gate has a problem with execution, that's not the comparison we're making, just that the Gates, in comparison with Troll 2 and with Book of Henry, it at least... Why it's an okay movie while those two movies are bad, even if enjoyably so. The Gate is a movie that works.
Yeah, it works and it's consistent.
Yeah, it's competently made and it's something that's very easy to follow.
Yeah, it's easy to follow and it has some really fun special effects. There's also some similarities in horror spots. Like by far the most effective scare moment in Troll 2 is a scene with a mirror bursting, where they film. It's also one of the few really good setups and payoffs in that film, where it establishes that there is a spiritual connection with mirrors, and also that they're a source of safety for the main character. So then when that safety is violated by the goblins using it and breaking through, that is a genuinely startling moment and thematically appropriate.
Some real Hitchcock stuff right there.
Oh, I mean, it's a staple. It's a staple of the language of horror filmmaking.
Yeah.
And thrillers, and just... If people are looking at mirrors, bad things are going to happen in film.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we were talking about mirrors with horror films, but I feel like just mirrors in fiction tend to be very helpful no matter what your genre is. They're always going to be... No matter what your genre is going to be helpful to... I see, almost to the point where it's almost a cliche, but, you know, if it works, it works.
It works. It's like... In that video I made on Krampus a few weeks ago, I talked about the visual language of snow globes in film.
Yeah.
And there is a cut in the Book of Henry, which I was actually going to use in that video, but decided not to, where one of the first time that Henry looks out the window and sees Trophy Girl, what's her name? Christine? I think it's Christine.
Yeah.
Christina.
Trophy Girl.
Christina?
When he sees Trophy Damsel in her room looking sad with the light off, she's shining a light through a snow globe to expand the reflection of what's in the snow globe on the wall, which is the ballerina. So you have this ballerina trapped in the dome around her, and that's fine visual storytelling in a good film. That would be a good decision. I was going to use that cut in Krampus to with a little snide quip about how even a bad movie can understand at least this much about the visual purpose of snow globes in film.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like Colin Trevorrow understands an amount of film.
Well, that's the thing. This film is well assembled, I think was the word that I said earlier.
So it's Book of Henry we're talking about.
Yeah, back to Book of Henry. Yeah.
This is going to be a constant theme, I think, unless we're very disciplined about it. The fact is that the Book of Henry is eclipsed. We watched 2 movies today, but we watched Book of Henry second, and it's dominating.
We had an opener and a main event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll try and tell you something.
And let me tell you, the Book of Henry won that freaking belt.
Yeah.
Well, I'm fine with bouncing back and forth like this. Basically, I'll say it now. If you want to have just a good, straightforward review of The Gate, Red Letter Media did a video on it about a year ago.
Oh.
That one's a perfectly good watch. It has a lot of Jay Bauman gushing over the neat special effects, as he is wont to do. And likewise, if you want a basic rundown of the Book of Henry, Dan Olson made an excellent video discussing why the plot is fundamentally broken.
It's very broken.
I'll probably put links to those videos in the description of this upload, actually. Both good viewing.
I can definitely see someone being very happy with the special effects for The Gate. And I feel like that's probably its best. I think it almost actually is its best quality.
It is by far its best strength.
Yeah.
It's... I mean, it was a movie of, like, neat little details.
Yeah. A series of spots.
Yeah, and, like...
Spot monkey.
We can, like, pick and
Doesn't know how to
choose.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really my main thoughts on The Gate.
Yeah, it's a bunch of cool spots.
It happened. I mean, it feels like a movie that just sort of would have happened at the time and then kind of just went by,
Yep.
and only someone who was exposed so much to a film like a video store.
If you see
would have
this
come
film,
across
yeah,
this.
if you see this film in a video shop when you're 8 to 12 years old, this will scar you in some way.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing where I don't want to say something that's really cliche probably at this point, but it really feels like one of those kind of horror movies for kids or all ages, however you want to say it.
Well, that's clearly
But,
what it is.
Yeah, it's one of those types of movies where back then it feels like you could do more with scaring kids than perhaps you can now.
Which is honestly probably a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether...
There are lots of ways to trigger trauma in children.
Yeah.
And as I'll give a personal anecdote here.
Sure.
So, as I mentioned, our family had access to a video shop when we were young. This also meant that there was a lot of excess promotional posters floating in our house. And so, from a young age, both mine and my sister's rooms had lots of film posters, particularly animated movie posters up. Of course, if you've seen a lot of animated movies, you know that posters for them, you tend to have lots of faces and lots of looming villainous faces in the background.
Sure.
When I was a young child, I was a very imaginative child, and these posters scared the crap out of me. I had nightmares for most of my early childhood, and I had a lot of trouble being scared by these posters, and this was something else I wanted to bring up in The Gate, and its theming is that when you're a kid, not only are you reliant on your parents for protection, but you're also, as a small child, you don't really have much power and control over the world around you. And so these posters were up in my room for years, even though I was scared witless of them, because it just hadn't occurred to me to say, hey, these are scaring me, can I get rid of them? Because, I mean, my parents put them up, therefore they're supposed to be up.
Yeah.
So it was only when I was a bit older and actually brought that up that my parents went, oh crap, what have we been doing all these years? We're so sorry, and took them all down.
Yeah, parenting is hard.
Yes.
Yeah. Which we'll see in Book of
I
remember there was a big Terminator 2 Judgment Day poster that used to be in my brother's room, and it would, of course, have, as most Terminator posters will have,
half Arnie, half Terminator.
Half Terminator. That would scare the crap out of me. These red eyes staring at me. But I'd always want to play his PlayStation, which would be in his room, so it'd be like this double-edged sword of how long can you endure the stare of Arnie? Arnie's while I play my Metal Gear or whatever.
I had a similar experience with not a poster, but like merchandise tie-in for a movie. For Independence Day.
Oh man, those aliens.
Do you remember those alien toys?
Yeah, the bootleg Geiger toys.
Yeah, the ones that would turn on and just like make noise and kind of like... I stayed at a friend's place and they had one on their shelf.
Oh man, while you were sleeping over or something? Yes.
I'm sure it didn't, but I kind of really hope that it did that tentacle thing. Like... Because I'm not sure if you remember Independence Day. I think I'm the only one who's really watched it that many times.
What? I've seen it a number of times.
Okay, remember that bit when they're like, when they open up and there's like actually like a billion tentacles just kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah. I really wish it did that. I would scare the shit out of a kid. Just like...
Nah, they just had they had the little grey inside, those toys.
Fair enough.
If they were one that could actually open up.
Yeah, sure.
And you go, that sucks.
Yeah. Well, that could be scary.
Where's the bit where this toy grabs me and says...
I guess we can all, as always, you can take it back to The Simpsons. It's just that bit with Bart, right? With the clown.
Yep.
It's something that should be very...
You should die before you wake. Yeah, well,
Can't sleep, time late.
The two posters that scared me the most as a child were a Gremlins poster, which had no Gremlins on it. It was just a giant Gizmo poster. But I had not yet seen Gremlins, so I didn't have the context of this is the cute happy thing. I just saw thing with a smirk and giant staring eyes at me. That was the scariest. The second most scary for me as a young child was a Humphrey B. Bear poster. Because something the brain is hardwired to do is look for faces and identify faces. This is why personification techniques in both writing and especially in film are so important. This is why you tend to put more human attributes in animals in order to make them more endearing. I could see an evil face in the background of that Humphrey B. Bear poster. It was not there. It was just some bush. I saw a face, and I could not sleep facing that poster for years.
Yeah. No, I think all kids will probably have a story like that in some ways, which I guess shows that the gate is at least tapping into something that's pretty ubiquitous.
Yeah, it taps into very base primal fears. As an adult, the film's just this bunch of neat, weird ideas. As a kid, like, this is all some very scary stuff.
Well, I mean, there was... I particularly thought there's a scene pretty late in the story. As we said, we were going to bounce around. There's a scene where I actually must have missed this setup, because you guys are both completely unsurprised. But there's a bit where... I don't think he's real. I think the demons just made him. I think what must have happened was there must have been a story about a guy in the wolves, dead in the wolves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Glenn, the protagonist, mentions it to his dad early on.
Okay.
And his dad says, well, Terry's had some trauma because his mum died last year, and he does some needlessly cruel things.
Okay, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and
it's during
that's
that
when he brings up that
conversation.
story.
What did he say?
He's like, Terry told me that when they were building our house,
That a man died in the walls.
yeah, he
Okay.
died and they buried him. The other guy didn't want to say anything.
Okay. Yeah. So I doubt that actually happened. I think that was just kind of like the demons bringing...
Yeah, well, Terry explicitly says, but I made that story up.
Yeah.
Why is there a man in the walls now?
Yeah, there's actually a set... before I go into that, like, the demons have, like, a wonderful sense of humor in this movie.
Yes.
They're a very fun villain.
They're very much like Evil Dead 2. Much more than Evil Dead 1. Just the way that the grabites, the deadites, whatever they're called. Yeah, it's deadites because it's graboids and tremors. That's what I'm mixing up.
Yeah.
The demons in Evil Dead 2 have this very biting sense of humor, which of course culminates in that scene where Bruce Campbell's laughing at all the hangings on the walls and bouncing up and down with the lantern.
Yeah. Like, these villains are very much in that vein, and I think that makes them very fun.
Yeah, and they also... a lot of the imagery they use to scare the children is very much playing into that sense of isolation and betraying senses of security. As another aside here, have either of you had your house broken into before?
No. I don't think so.
Sort of, but not really.
No, yeah, because if you've had an actual break-in happen, this can lead to a bit of trauma. This happened to my sister a number of years ago in the first house she'd moved into. And like you have this sense of violation when it happens, that the home is a place of refuge. That is a place you can go to just relax and be you.
Yeah.
But when it's been broken into, that relationship you have with your house is broken. And you go home and you don't feel like you can be you in your house anymore. And there's a bunch of things like the use of the small little... The little minions, they're explicitly called minions in the movie, really tap into that sense of just, your house can't be safe because things can find a way in. Especially when one of the minions gets its hand cut off, and what it does is break off into smaller bugs that can slip through even more cracks. That is an unnerving concept to have. And likewise, the demons also frequently try to adopt the roles of the kids' parents, to betray that sense of trust in their parents and that the home is safe. One of the first things the demons do is pretend to be the main character's best friend, Terry's mother, in a spectacularly hammy scene.
Yeah, oh my god.
I love you, Terry.
That was so bizarre.
I miss you so much. And there's that misty lighting going on. You're thinking, okay, it's a dream, it's fake.
Yeah.
But then you get that wonderful substitution at the last second where he's holding a dead dog.
Yeah.
Both substitutions with a dead dog are great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the one in the bed, I forgot about that.
Yeah, they
It's drooling blood there as well.
Yeah.
that's something that, like, as I said, like, it's brave in how far it goes with its scares, considering the audience that it's made for. It's not afraid to have some really creepy stuff. I remember for some reason, I'm not sure if a kid would be as scared. Maybe, actually. The scene that actually came closest to, like, just feeling very creepy to me was when, as I say, the demon-created zombie fake man in the walls just, like, bursts out and takes Terry.
Yeah.
He's, like, a secondary main character. And just, like, grabs him and just takes him away.
Just
like,
takes him, no opposition.
Yeah, there's
just does it.
Yeah, and there's something, I don't know, I think that was very effective.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah, the things that scare adults and that scare children can be radically different.
Yeah.
Because it's not always things that are gross and weird. Those don't necessarily scare kids. They can, depending on context and audio cues in particular. And certain sorts of ideas will scare parents a lot that won't scare children. I think my favorite example of this is, again, using my sister. There was a time when she was quite young that my parents were watching Aliens.
Okay.
And it was in the middle of one of the big scenes with the aliens, when my sister walked in to say goodnight, and that was unexpected. And so they went, oh crap, how much of the film did she see? Is this going to impact her? A couple of nights later, she started having nightmares. Due to the bear from Milo and Otis. Aliens, she didn't think anything of that.
Yeah.
But the bear, because the bear has some scenes where Milo and Otis... If you've never seen it, it's a Japanese film with a well-known English release about a cat and a dog and their little... Just a live-action film of a live cat and a live dog. No animatronics or anything. Just running around having some adventures. There's a number of scenes where they're being chased by a bear. One in particular, they're hiding in some drawers in an abandoned house, and the bear is just going drawer by drawer to try and find them. And that scared the crap out of my sister, because that looming sense of entrapment was what really got her. And so that came back in her nightmares, but the aliens, who cares? They go, and catch on fire.
Yeah. I also think that it's almost a primal kind of fear, just where is he taking him? It's taking him to like
a purple light.
A purple light. It's almost like a Lovecraftian or a really old kind of horror fiction writer kind of way. It's just and now they take them down to the depths.
Do we know who played the zombie in the movie? Because the actor kind of looked like his father to me. So I had there was an adult parent-child kind of violation of that relationship. Kind of vibe I got from it.
And the film was already doing that as well earlier on, where
for sure.
the main character's parents pop up and the father's face melts pus, then falls off and explodes, while the demon mother just laughs her head off.
Yeah.
You've been bad.
You've been bad!
That's what I mean about how humorous, or at least the sense of humor that the demons had. That wasn't there was no logical or practical.
Yeah, it wasn't part of their plan to grab them to get the sacrifices to break through. No,
to laugh at them.
Yeah, they're just being needlessly cruel.
Yeah, which is what a demon probably does. So it's not he doesn't break the film or anything like that. If it was a human being, as
if anything, it's better characterization than a lot of horror films have.
Yeah,
this is a consistently cruel and petty being,
which makes it. And what's great about that is it also makes it logical that they can be defeated as well. Because it's not it's not an alien that has just an objective or something like that, or a serial killer. It's a demon. They have their own...
They want to wreak havoc and get out.
Yeah, they have their own sense of logic and their own objectives that aren't quite what ours are. So it's why you can have these things that seem so powerful in certain ways, but you can still have a kid defeat them because they're not logical. They're not. They're not like us.
That seems like a fair point to go back to the Book of Henry. Is logical defeats. So I guess we'll just say it now. If you haven't seen the Book of Henry, and you don't like to be spoiled on things, I will say right here, this is your final warning. Go watch the Book of Henry right now. Alright, you've got to watch the Book of Henry? Good. The Book of Henry is about an obnoxiously smart kid who dies halfway through, but leaves directions to his mother on how to correctly murder their next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Wow. When you say it,
it sounds that much more insane.
When you try and summarize it, it really shows just how insane this movie is.
And it never leaves that early scene tone of being this whimsical, witty family movie.
Yeah, the fact the opening credits start out in such a whimsy kind of way.
You walked away at the best moment in the opening credits.
No.
Because it's all shots from the titular Book of Henry, his notebook with instructions on how to murder his next door neighbor. And so you get all these images from the film, the evidence of why he thinks the next door neighbor's stepdaughter is being sexually abused by him. It's interspersed with whimsical Rube Goldberg machines and little notes around the area. You walked away at the exact moment when it's elaborate sketches of the firearms he wants to use. So I was thinking, oh man, you just missed the best foreshadowing in the film. Also, we made a quip about plywood being no thicker than the human skull earlier. It's this line that just comes up during the film. They liked the line enough that it's also in the opening credits in one of the pages, very visibly revealed to the viewer.
Yeah, there's like a drawing of plywood, and there's an arrow pointing at the plywood, and it says, yeah.
Yeah. Now, of course, if you were using weaker sorts of projectiles, this would be important. It's a sniper rifle with .3 caliber dismantling shots. It will explode the head.
Yeah, this is why the movie is bad. This is the one point of the movie which way it all just falls apart. If it wasn't for that, I mean, it would all just make sense. I mean, morally.
No.
logically.
Nothing about the plan makes sense. The movie spends so much time hammering down precision, perfect calculations, no mistakes allowed.
Yeah, it's a very...
The plan is set up a walkie-talkie and hope that your neighbor hears it and will go walk to your walkie-talkie in your backyard, stand next to the creek, then get shot into the creek.
The creek.
Also, the creek is really shallow.
Yeah, the creek that's not going to carry a body anywhere.
It was a very basic plan. To be
It was
fair.
perhaps a child's plan.
Yeah. And this would be fine if the point is... And here's the ultimate mix thing. At the very last second before Naomi Watts... By the way, Naomi Watts is in this film, and she is 50 times better than this film deserves.
Probably every actor was probably better than... I actually thought... Sorry, very quick aside. I thought the younger brother...
He's excellent.
Peter,
Yeah, that I was angry because I felt like getting these
Deserves a better movie.
Yeah, and I felt, and as well, it's like Diamond. It's like Gold Dust getting a performance like this out of a kid. You
Yeah,
know?
child actors this good deserve to be not in the Book of
Yeah,
Henry.
like I wish you could somehow like bottle this performance and then put him in a movie that also needs a child actor because.
Or just find a way to green screen all of his scenes into a different film.
Yeah, like I mean, he's just acting sad through most of it. Like that's where his best acting is. Like he looks genuine. Like for a kid, he's acting when he's upset that his brother's gonna die.
Yeah, the deaths, his final scenes with his brother are really intense. The first time I saw this, I was tearing up during those scenes.
Yeah, and that's why I probably was as angry as I was because I was like, this is really good stuff for such a complete
there
piece
are-
of shit. Like
on their own, kind of like The Gate has like those random moments of like almost brilliance.
Yeah.
There are random moments in the Book of Henry where it's like in a different movie, this would have been fine or even great.
Yeah.
I mean, like the stuff towards the end. You made a joke about a Naomi Watts Assassins movie. I kind of want that now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The way that she handles the scene where she's buying the guns.
Yeah.
And declares, I've got a plane to catch. You do not want to make me waste my time.
It's just, that
I want to see a movie where she's doing this now. I want John Wick 3. Naomi Watts is John Wick.
but
even
also
the way she when she's holding the gun.
Oh, yeah.
Like she genuinely looks quite like action hero.
But also, like there's like the intense, like the like the kind of the climax of the conflict between her and Glenn, where like it's just a really like it.
The cinematography is so good.
Yeah, it's like that could have where she's like telling him to like turn around and stuff. I'm like that scene is from a different movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think importantly, you have two actors there that are very experienced. And
You have
very-
excellent actors, but the blocking and the lighting and the cinematography are all spot on as well.
The
It
lighting
is
is
shot
great
to
in this movie, actually.
yeah, it's shot to be tense. It's morally ambiguous in the right way by the lighting. The close-ups have the exact right tone. Some of the few scenes that actually have the correct tone for the content in them. Oh man, this film.
It's the lighting is good in those scenes. It's good in a way. It's also a little bit. It's a bit like there's a scene where Amazing Grace plays. Where
Yes.
she's planning to shoot him. It's like good, but it's also a little bit like
Ham-fisted.
yeah, ham-fist is a
Yeah.
great word. Or like this is like your first time making a movie, and this is
Yeah.
like well,
I
guess...
have studied montage theory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Through the connection of unrelated images and audio,
So
we
it's-
can create
you
a
know-
new meaning entirely.
Yeah.
You know,
If
as
we
much
inter...
as-
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, as much as we say that, I still really like the tap dancing. because
The
that's
tap-
just
yeah.
it builds the pace to that scene
Yes.
just so well.
Yes, the Amazing Grace is incredibly painfully bad.
Yeah.
This Amazing Grace, as she's preparing to murder someone, that's rubbish. The tap dancing immediately after perfectly sets the tempo of she is gonna murder him. That's really good, and then it's followed by sad girl does sad dance. Therefore, Principal concludes maybe she is being abused because her dance is sad.
Bruises.
And
Lack
yeah.
of...
So yeah, let's just get to the bruises. I can make quips about the ending later. Yeah, so they say that the girl is the trophy girl, the prize girl, the non-person Christine is being sexually abused by her stepfather, is what the film says, but never actually shows. When Henry witnesses events, all you see is the girl looking sad in her room. When the mother sees it, all you see is the girl looking sad in her room and her door opens. There's talk of bruises and failing school results, but there's so little narrative set in the school related to things like test results that you never get a visual sense of this. He says that there's been things like bruising, and in fact, in the scenes leading up to that, her hair is covering half of her face consistently, shot after shot after shot.
Yeah.
But finally, when Naomi Watts actually pushes her hair back, there's nothing there. The film is too cowardly to depict what it actually wants to talk about.
Well, it's also, I think it's the sort of thing where there's so much else going on in the film that, you could, like, trying to stop a child abuser is, like, could be a movie in of itself.
Yes.
But you also have child genius, super miracle child, Jesus baby, and
Also
child.
cancer story.
Yo,
And
man,
then
yeah.
there's also the cancer story. This is actually...
We haven't even gotten to the messianic metaphors yet.
Yeah,
This movie has...
Henry is Jesus.
Yeah.
This movie has, like, 4 different plots.
Yeah. It, like, anyone who didn't listen to the spoiler warning and decided to listen on would be very confused if they then if they were listening to what we were just saying and then started watching the film, because this what we're talking about now is the latter half of the film.
Yeah.
And has it.
You start watching this film hearing it's going to be about a kid trying to murder someone.
Yeah.
Then the film starts, and it's just this snob arsehole kid in his class singing, well, life is actually meaningless, and the momentary existence is all that we have, and we should disregard, like, transient things like money and just focus on doing the best that we can in all we do. Then he spends the rest of his life trying to make as much money as he can through stocks and trading.
Yeah. It's insane, and the tonal changes and just the story changes, like what Louis just said, with 4 different movies in one. I don't think I've ever really seen anything quite like this.
I have.
Okay.
Have I made you watch The Flying Ghost Ship yet?
Oh, Christ.
No.
Yeah, Louis has seen The Flying Ghost Ship with me. We'll have to do that sometime.
Okay.
That is a Japanese and Russian animated co-production from the early 60s. It is like the Book of Henry, in that it is like 5 films rolled into one.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are movies that have concepts, or not just movies, but any kind of fictions that
But
have
there's
different
ideas, not completely
yeah.
redirecting the plot.
Yeah. And the weird thing with Book of Henry is that it starts off as this whimsical kind of pay it forward, or that
Painfully
kind of
twee.
yeah, kind of thing. But then
Baby's first wannabe Wes Anderson.
yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it. And then it does transform a little bit into, which is also very, like, this is the first, like, tonal break when suddenly the
Suddenly
child...
cancer.
No. Before that, there's
Other suddenly abuse.
the suddenly abuse thing. I was like, whoa, okay, that's very
That's weirdly
weird.
dark.
Yeah, and there's also a scene that strangely reminds me of, like, a Clint Eastwood, or oh damn, what's his name? He was in Dirty Dozen once. You don't. I know you're a big fan of him.
John Wayne?
No, not John Wayne. No.
What am I saying?
No, he doesn't. It's like at least I think it's a B name. It's Charles Bronson. I think no.
I mean, I do like Charles Bronson.
Is it him? It reminds me of that kind of like a real, like, hard boiled cop kind of.
Oh, you just mean the cop cop on the edge.
Yeah, the
scene.
cop on the edge scene, like where he's talking to the principal.
Talking to principal. God damn it,
yeah,
Janice.
god damn it, Janice.
How much longer is this gonna go for? Look at the evidence. What more do I have to do?
Yeah.
No, we need the correct evidence before we can make a civil charge. You damn it, man. You're going off the edge.
Yeah, it's like 'cause
You're off the case, Henry.
before that scene
Turning
is
your badge.
is just like whimsy and yeah, Wes, like really shitty Wes Anderson is a great way to describe
Yeah,
it.
everyone except for Naomi Watts is a weird alien in this movie.
Yeah, and then there's that scene, and then we do a little bit of stuff with the child abuse kind of thing, and then
This movie would be far better with a child predator.
just a little predator. No, and then
Mom, I think Henry wants to kill the predator.
Yeah, I'm here. Kill me.
the music starts like a dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun kind of.
I mean, to be fair, predators probably would have their head plywood is only slightly thicker than a predator's skull.
But yeah, then out of absolutely nowhere, there's a slight scene where he gets a headache, and I was like, because the only reason why I kind of saw this coming, not completely, but just because I think what people might not be getting from what we've been talking about this movie, Henry is insanely perfect. Like,
He is the greatest human being to ever live.
yeah, like he's not
and
just
it will.
smart. Like you might see, like in a summary, it might say genius, or it might say intelligent, or wise beyond his years, and it's something like that that doesn't fully express.
He's like beyond a Mary Sue.
Yeah, he's yeah.
Why? Why don't we send you to a special school? A special
Yeah, that's what he said. Gifted class.
a gifted class again, Henry? Well, because a regular class would be superior for my psychosocial development when working with my peers.
Yeah. So
He
that-
gives this
okay.
answer. He does not believe it. He spends every scene he is in class either looking really bored and ignoring everything, or flying off the handle. God damn it, Janice.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have friends. There's scenes later where kids talk about how great and wonderful he is. Kids who he was burying at the start of the film. But what does he spend his lunchtimes doing? Playing checkers with the lunch lady. And then effortlessly defeating her in a single move. Because, you know, it's a Hollywood movie and that's visual shorthand for super smart guy who's always in control.
Yeah.
Even though it's checkers, and if there is a move like that, you are legally required to make that move immediately.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, beyond the Mary Sue, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like Henry before. Even, I'm pretty sure I must have watched a movie with Jesus in it at some point, and I still don't think.
Oh
I've
no,
seen
because
it.
Jesus is actually humble
Yeah, Jesus is...
and cares about others.
Yes. Well, I don't know, I feel like Henry does care about his mom.
He cares enough to tell her to watch for the stocks.
Yeah.
You got to pay more attention to the finances.
I guess
the finances.
wish
Get me the
for-
finance
Turn
papers.
off them damn video games.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to that yet. Naomi Watts has the goal to enjoy playing video games in her spare time after the hours she has spent with her children, caring and nurturing
and
them.
going to work as well. She's a waitress.
She's a waitress,
Yes.
although it's implied throughout the film that she doesn't need to be there.
The
And also,
movie-
there's nothing to indicate that they're financially in poor straits.
but
They have
besides
this.
maybe the car.
They have this really nice 2-story house. They live in a safe, friendly neighborhood next to the chief of police.
Well, to be fair, she does say... I thought there was a scene that was trying to establish they were poor, which was weird because...
Giant,
Yeah, it tries to,
giant
but all the
flashes
rest
in
of the
TV.
visuals undercut it.
Yeah. There was like a scene where like she was trying to tell the kid not to eat too much fruit. She was like, "That's expensive. Please don't do that." And then there's the car.
Yeah, the maple syrup.
Yeah. But then it's on the car, as you say.
And it's like even when they're shopping for food, the central crux isn't, oh, we need to avoid all these expensive things. It's just, we've got to make sure that Peter doesn't keep putting all this junk food into the trolley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And-
yeah. Sorry.
All I was gonna say is like just keeping on Naomi Watts, is the movie also trying to frame her as a bad parent?
Yeah.
I mean,
It consistently tries to paint her as being wrong and Henry right, which really comes to a head in the scenes where he's dying, and he's just insisting on detailing her all the information about what investments to make. And he says, "Mum, this is really important." And she says, "No, it's not." In any other film almost, Naomi Watts would be right here. The point is you're dying, and we've got to deal with this.
Yeah.
But it treats her as being in the wrong. She is wrong because she's not listening to Henry's superior financial knowledge.
She's not listening.
Watch the textiles.
It's so weird because, sorry to jump ahead and jump around, but it feels like a confused movie at times because we say that, and there's a lot of stuff that would suggest that, like, Henry's this perfect person, and that we should all just listen to him and do what he wants. But then, at the end of the movie...
It's a standing ovation for her not following his directions to murder her neighbor.
Yeah, it's... I really understand what the message is here. I don't understand what the moral is.
It's that Henry is perfect,
Okay.
except this one time.
He made one mistake in his life, because, yeah, it does this, and you go, okay, so the point is to undercut and understand that he is just a kid, and Naomi Watts is her own person and things. But then the very next thing to happen is everything goes perfectly according to his plan anyway, and his ashes descend upon the people of his school.
That is
Like
that
the
was
Spirit of
ridiculous.
God descending upon the apostles at Pentecost.
The fact that, like, was it supposed to be his ashes? Was that like a metaphor?
It's a double entendre, because it's a callback to his fake mountain climbing scene earlier in the film.
Yeah.
But
That was back
since,
when it was trying to pretend.
but
to be
since
like
there's
anatomy.
since there is no funeral scene in this film, there is the very clear visual implication that Peter is spraying his ashes upon the people around him.
And people love
And
it.
they love it. It's a standing
Yeah.
ovation. We have been gifted with the purity of Henry's intelligence and spirit. Again, this guy, the film is called The Book of Henry, a similar naming to the books of the Christian Gospel, as well as various other books of the Hebrew Torah. We have his first disciple is called Peter, the name of the first disciple of Jesus. When Henry dies, it's a replica of a statue of Mary holding Jesus after his death. There's so much messianic imagery going on here.
There's no
so it's-
father in the picture.
Yeah, there's no father, so yeah, there's almost this immaculate conception implication going on here.
Not even one mention of
No.
a father. No.
They're named the Carpenters.
Yeah, they're named the Carpenters.
I just noticed another connection to the gate. The Bible.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, I'd say one of the best scenes in the gate is when they're basically the demons are coming out of the hole in the ground. We didn't talk about the gate at all. We just did
We
not.
talked about it for nearly 20 minutes
Did
looking
we?
at this. Yeah.
Okay, well, the demons come out of a hole in the ground. We didn't say that.
Yeah, it's a
And-
whole...
Yeah.
It leads to the best line early on, where Terry looks and goes, yeah, you got a demon problem. you got demons.
You got a girl problem.
You know, just call the pest control, call up Lawless, the demon hunters.
And then
we need a Witcher.
yeah, there was like a Witcher vibe with that hole. But when they're trying to close it up, there's a scene. Well, before they even there's two things actually. First of all, they're trying to read just random what are they called again in the Bible? Like passages. Yeah.
Well, specifically, they try to read some Psalms. They're open to the middle of the Bible,
Yes.
and the Psalms is a book of David, second king of Israel's
yeah.
various prayers that he made.
So they're trying to read that, and that's somewhat effective. It looks like things are mostly going their way, but their demons are still around. It's still obviously not quite finished yet.
There are lots of moths.
Lots of monsters around. Yeah, the most
Yeah,
evil things in the world.
Moss is the visual warning that there's demons about,
Yeah.
especially if they set off a bug zapper.
And I think they were like, they're not gone yet. I think that's what the sister says, or something
Yeah.
like that, and to that effect. And Terry, the secondary main character, is like, what was the line exactly? It was,
Oh, it's okay, one more verse and we'll be finished, or
yeah.
something like
Yeah,
that.
one more verse and finished, and then they'll be gone. It's like the most, like,
Yeah, you know, this-
nonchalant.
Well, you know,
blasé.
you're like,
Yeah.
you spray the mozzies. You spray the mozzies for a second, and they'll buzz around for a bit longer, and then they're dead. You know?
All it was
One more
missing,
verse will
all
do.
that was missing was like a wink, like just like yeah,
It's like,
okay.
but how do you know this, Terry? Oh, I was listening to heavy metal, and the heavy metal referenced all of this stuff.
Getting exposition on how to defeat demons through heavy metal is still more logical than
The Book of
the
Henry.
Book of Henry.
Yes. Because, you see, this is a record of people who... Well, certainly the record is ultimately proven correct. So this is people who have had past experience and detailed some general warnings of how to deal with demons. In the Book of Henry, Henry's directions in his book and his tape-recorded messages all directly interact real-time in conversations with his mother. Well,
Over a very long period of time.
A very long period of time. Longer than he would have had time to record in the one night in hospital that he had to actually do this.
Is that the only night he had?
Well, we don't know how long he was in hospital.
Yeah.
It's really ambiguous there, but...
The fact he was even able to sneak out of hospital. Like, apparently he's not just amazingly intelligent, but he must also be physically capable. Because he's able to sneak around, he's able to...
Well, you see, he diagnosed his own brain cancer.
Yes, he
So
did.
perhaps he's fully aware with the physical limitations and how much time remains.
He almost diagnosed his own brain cancer.
Oh yeah, he had like 2 guesses, and the neurosurgeon had to help him along. Dr. Hot Dude.
He's like, when he kind of, oh damn it, I should have thought of that.
That was definitely one of the scenes where I realized just how insane...
The depths of the madness.
How could anyone write that? Like, how could anyone think that that's a scene that makes any kind of sense?
The same way that the very next scene can be the friend of his mother's that he's been bickering with the whole time.
God.
And how they're actually horny for each other and they make out.
He's 11.
I was saying,
12.
12.
He's almost 12.
He's almost 12. He's so insane, this character, that I was looking... There were times when I was watching it, I was entertaining any kind of idea to try and explain how this person was. I was thinking about possession. I was thinking about divinity.
Well, you should have been thinking about divinity, because he does, in fact, have it.
He has, like... Yeah.
And yeah, you thought a supernatural explanation would be more logical than just, this is bad writing.
Yeah, it goes beyond bad writing. Children are hard to write. They're hard to find actors for. So you can always,
You can have certain leeway.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I get it. It's hard to write this kind of character.
Not every film can be Trick or Treat.
Yeah. If Henry had said Charlie Brown's an asshole, then maybe he would have been slightly more able to root for him a little bit better. But yeah, if you haven't seen this film, this might be the most unbelievable character that I have ever seen in my entire life. And I've seen aliens of any sort.
You've seen episodes of Death Note.
I've seen episodes of Death Note. I've seen crazy characters. I've seen demons. I've seen robots. This is the most unrealistic character.
Henry Carpenter.
Henry Carpenter.
Boy wonder. I got nothing.
I got nothing about this character.
And the brief period where he's dead, and it briefly becomes a story about grappling with the grief of losing a child.
Sure.
Naomi Watts, for these few scenes, I mean, she's great the whole way through the film at working with what she's been given.
Yeah.
Where it's just flat out actually about her and dealing with her son's death is... So Louis is gesturing to a freeze frame we have, that's from much later. I was thinking of... No, the scenes where she's going a bit crazy, so she does...
Yes.
Oh, the making... Yeah.
She decides to
breakfast.
make brownies as every meal for a week. And she just comes in, hey there, I've got an idea. I've got an idea, like dessert every meal for a
It's
week.
like Bug Eyes. That's a really good one, but to me, my favorite one is when she goes back to the diner.
Oh yeah.
Which is a waitress has, and this
Is this Coke diet or regular?
yeah,
and she just drinks the customer's Coke.
Yeah. But then
Diet.
Then randomly and very distractingly, I believe her boss, who is, I believe, a character on Saturday Night Live now, which just seems such a strange choice for this movie.
Well, you move from one comedy to another.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't think you're okay, which clearly isn't. And her answer is just like, oh, no, I'm fine. And that doesn't sound like that great of a
Her
line,
execution,
but
everything is wrong with her in a
Yes.
very believable, real way.
yes, her eyes like bug out a little bit, and it's so perfect. So yeah, it's not much of a scene, but I really like it.
Please don't put coins on a glass table
Yeah, I
while we're
realized that
taping.
after I did
That's
it.
gonna make some noise. And there will be some equalizing and stuff going on in post, but yeah, that's gonna be a fun thing to watch out for.
Naomi Watts is fantastic in this film. And probably, I'm thinking we were talking about like the pantheon of bad movies. I'm trying to think of like better performances in them. Like today,
Like a legitimate, like an actual performance in a bad movie.
Bela Lugosi in Plan 9. Bela Lugosi's stunt double in Plan.
The water bottles in the room.
The football in the room.
I guess
The doggy in the room.
I guess
No, that guy sucks. The dozen roses.
Oh god.
I guess that goes to show just how weird a film this is in that pantheon.
Hmm.
In that it's not terrible in the same way The Room or any other terror movie is.
You will never see a film quite like The Book of Henry.
I was genuinely uncomfortable watching at times in this. I just had to get up and leave. And that makes it sound like it might have been like a dark subject matter or very gross or something like that. It wasn't that. It was just a general feeling
Grossly
of cringe.
alien.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people who you probably shouldn't respect were behind this.
Yeah.
You know how they say, like, aliens are already among us? I think Colin Trevorrow is one of them.
We found our first lizard people, everyone.
This is a movie by someone who doesn't understand human beings.
If Henry was a lizard person, everything would have made sense. It would have made because like lizards age differently. You know, they might have like lizard years. You know,
So
like,
you're saying that like we need to get Rowdy Roddy Piper's sunglasses from They Live?
Yeah.
Put them on,
Yeah.
and in black and white, and Henry's just like this super brain monster.
Yeah. Maybe what happened was
He's the brain bug from Starship Troopers.
It's afraid.
Yeah, that's when he's dying. It's afraid.
Yep.
It's annoying that I kind of called that. I was like, you know, it would be really good if like he's always this logical kind of Spock Vulcan kind of character for the most part. Imagine if when he was dying, like that facade kind of went away for a bit and he actually started crying and stuff. And when he died, he actually was like, that did actually went away. And that was annoying. I was like, that's actually good.
Yeah, he did display some humanity and
I was like,
vulnerability.
that's exactly what you should do with a high. If obviously, no, you should never make a character like Henry. But if you did decide to make a character that was dispassionate or just hyper intelligent, what is that kind of logical kind of character? Usually, what you would do is you would have a scene where they kind of break down a little bit for whatever reason. Usually, as like a climax to whatever arc.
You know, that's a part of having a hero's low point.
Yeah, and I was annoyed they did that because that was good. And
Yeah, well, as I was
didn't
saying, this film understands filmmaking.
yeah,
It's just the worldview behind the filmmaker
yeah.
breaks it utterly.
Just why anything good in it actually kind of feels annoying because it's like no, this is wasted in this in this thing. So yeah,
I never saw any of his other stuff like Jurassic World.
the weird thing with Jurassic World, and the weird thing with Trevorrow, I think, is that it's funny because you were talking about this right at the start of this podcast about people
Yes.
that you think are fine. But
And
they'll
then you
have
get the
one-
right bit of insight and you really see the depths of them
Yeah, and
insanity.
then you get the fluoride scene from Dr. Strangelove, and
Yes.
eventually it all becomes
Our favourite
clear.
example.
Yes, like
Oh man, we were making Kubrick jokes earlier as well.
we were.
The Gate has a couple of zooms that are a lot like those Kubrick comedic zooms that he does
Yes.
sometimes.
Yeah, just like zooming in on that log.
There was that period where indie films used to abuse that all the time in the early days of digital camera work.
Yeah.
Not sure if you ever saw anything from that period.
Probably not.
Yeah, there are a bunch of indie filmmakers who love that zoom. But, I mean, it's just an inherently funny effect.
Yeah. And yeah, like with like Trevor, like you were saying, you didn't really know. Like with Jurassic World, like I feel like there's enough there. There's enough of a committee, big blockbuster vibe that you probably had to hide it. Like he couldn't hide it completely. The romance between Chris Pratt's character and I just forget her name, unfortunately, which is
And Trophy Woman,
yeah, and Trophy Woman, who needs to be
who needs to be guided by a
Yes.
smart, whimsical man.
yes,
Because she really can't do it all on her own, because she doesn't quite understand things the way that Chris Pratt does.
yeah, he just knows, yeah.
This is like, this was a thing that was discussed at the time of the film's release, and it was just kind of, well, I guess this is Hollywood,
Yeah.
you know? And I don't know. Now we can well and truly see now that this is ideals that Colin Trevorrow has.
So yeah, that's Trevor for you. So you won't see the full Trevor.
So yeah, it's worth mentioning that he was to be the director of Star Wars Episode 9. And I don't know if it was because of various other creative disagreements or reasons, but this film came out, and about 6 weeks later he was pulled from Star Wars Episode 9.
I can't imagine how he would do with a female main character.
Yeah, well, like, it would be about how Rey needs to just listen to Poe more.
Yeah.
And maybe also Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Because Kylo Ren's really just this misunderstood, actually super great guy.
Oh my god, Kylo Ren just turns into Henry. Like, just...
Oh god.
I'm just picturing Kylo Ren and Hux just on board one of their superstar destroyers, and Kylo's just, you need to pay more attention to the finances. Watch those textiles.
I could imagine him finding a way to make Kylo Ren, like, the main hero.
Oh yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
He would find a way. So, yeah, we probably dodged a bullet there.
Yeah. A blaster shot, even.
Hey.
That's our first Star Wars mentions on this show.
Is that so?
I do believe so. I don't recall talking about it during Thor Ragnarok.
No, I don't think we did. I guess
And then we'll never talk about it again.
never talk about
So would you recommend either of these films tonight?
Yeah. I would absolutely recommend Book of Henry.
You will never forget the experience you have
At
with this
least
film.
once.
You know what's annoying? And I feel like it's wrong. in
Don't
some
pay
way.
to see the Book of Henry.
No, do not pay to see Book of Henry. But it's kind of sad in that The Gate is a competently made film by people who aren't insane. and The Book of Henry is one of the worst things you could ever watch, ever. And yet, here I am, I would not recommend The Gate. I don't think it's worth really watching. If it was in front of you and you had nothing else to do, you wouldn't be offended. You'd probably find some things.
It is absolutely the sort of film that if you walked into a video shop back in the day,
yeah.
or if you're just browsing through Netflix
You're
or
like,
any other streaming
okay.
service with some friends,
Yeah.
you can put it on, you can have a good time. The embodiment of a competent, somewhat mediocre film.
Yeah. These people kind of did an okay job. Yet, as I say, I would not recommend it, really. Like, I wouldn't recommend you to seek it out.
Unless you're interested in certain specific special effects tricks.
Sure.
There is some brilliant rear screen projection and multi-point perspective.
Sure. But
shots.
that's like a niche kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
that'd be like saying seek it out for a podcast.
Yeah, so
Where
if you're a podcast weirdo,
Yeah.
or someone who's actually trying to recreate practical special effects shots that are mostly redundant now,
Yeah.
watch The Gate.
And that's annoying because, like, for a more general audience, or like people listening, if whoever's listening,
Yeah, you'd probably have a better time.
I am going to recommend watching Book of Henry. And that feels wrong. That feels wrong in a very, like, existential universe kind of way. That's
we're
fucking terrible that...
We're rewarding.
Yeah, rewarding that compared to... But it's how
It
it
won't
is.
leave you.
You have to see this movie. You have to see the scene where the hot doctor... You say hot, I thought he was freakishly tall, so whatever. But either way, the hot, freakishly tall doctor who has no real
put him in
character.
WrestleMania!
Yeah, he looked like a wrestler. I thought he was strangely intimidating, actually.
He opens that door. Dun-dun,
Yeah.
dun-dun,
But yeah,
dun-dun.
there's a scene in Book of Henry. We have to talk about this scene, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, this scene is a
Because I
gem.
think we're wrapping up, but we have to talk about it. It's right near the end, and Naomi's going to go kill Hank Schrader, Glenn, and the abusive father.
Yes.
But this is actually kind of a weird thing. Like, the younger brother is now interfering in her life the same way Henry does.
Oh yeah, because he's his first disciple.
Yeah. And so he kind of, like, set him up on a double date, even though, like, Peter's, like, not a double date. Like,
A date.
Set them up on a date. Blind date, I think that's the word I'm looking for. Even though the Peter's, like, 8.
9.
Or 9, I don't know. But he does this. And Nimrods has to kind of get rid of him, because she has to go kill Hank Schrader. And so she's like, look, I've got, like, some volunteering to do, like, whatever, and she just gets rid of him. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I get that you have things to do. I'll just,
And backs out of the frame.
Backs out of the frame. It is so good. You wouldn't see something that awkward in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You wouldn't see something that awkward in like
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
You might see it in a Colin Firth romantic comedy, and your heart would melt as soon as Colin Firth does it.
Oh man, yeah. That is absolutely from a Colin Firth rom-com or
Yeah,
something.
have you ever seen BBC Pride and Prejudice?
No.
I love it.
I think you've threatened that for
No.
most of the time we've known each other.
That's not a thread. That I genuinely love that adaptation, and the scene where Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy confesses to the protagonist. He's almost at that level of tripping over his own tongue. It's so good.
I think what made me laugh at this particular scene so much is that it felt like the character's behavior and his dialogue mirrored what it might have been like for the person writing this scene, where it's like I
need to find a way to make him leave.
Yeah, I guess I'll make him just like
Yep, that'll do. Roll the cameras.
Yeah, there he goes. He just leaves. A wonderfully funny scene in a movie that you'll never forget if you watch.
And there's so many scenes we haven't even mentioned that are spectacularly funny.
Yeah.
And they're great on the level of the first time you see it, your brain will just be that bit confused and you won't be able to process it. Louis and I have seen this film before, and Matt hadn't, so we got to have that wonderful anticipation of, here comes one of the weird bits. How's Matt going to respond? And there was the bit where your brain finally gave up. And it was somewhere while they were in the hospital.
Yeah, when he was getting diagnosed.
When he diagnosed himself.
I'm done. Because I was really afraid that I would
irradiate.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Is it labiaplastal?
It definitely, the not getting it part is very scary because... especially when you're with friends and you just doing a podcast afterwards, like we're supposed to talk about a film, like because you're really concerned that you're not getting something, and then you have to talk about it later, and someone's gonna say, "Matt, didn't you get?" This
happened
metaphor,
with Robot Carnival last time.
Yeah, but like on an even bigger scale because that's a whole.
Yeah,
like,
this is a 100-minute film we're talking about.
Yeah, and if I just didn't get something that was very simple or something that it set up, I would have been like obviously very embarrassed. So. I was almost relieved, actually, with the hospital scene when I realized, oh, wait a minute, no, this is actually just...
You know the funny thing is Adam and I had the discussion beforehand where we're like, it's going to be interesting because this movie takes so goddamn long for that penny drop moment.
Yeah. For the Doctor Strangelove moment.
Yeah. I was worried that you wouldn't be digging the film because I'd hard sold it so hard to you a few weeks ago that this is the worst film of last year. Because like you've seen, you at least know things about Bright. I'm not sure if you've seen Bright, but like
I've heard about it. Yeah.
If you know enough about Bright on paper, that is by far the worst film. That or The Snowman, because it wasn't finished.
It wasn't finished, yeah.
That will never stop being funny to me.
Man.
Yeah. I probably did enjoy it in the end, even though there were parts when I was uncomfortable. If I was watching it alone, I'd have to watch it in segments. I would have, if there was no one to force me to keep watching, I would have stopped and walked around for a little bit just to like clear my head, like do something normal, just to give,
not like
just to ground and anchor me to reality.
in this energy.
Yeah, I would recommend Book of Henry.
Anything else we'd like to add, or shall I wrap it up here? We've just hit the hour mark.
No, I'm overwhelmed.
Anything else from Matt? Yeah, that'll do us. Got any ideas for what we should do next week, or will I pull out the next thing from the list?
No, you should pull out next.
I'll pull the next thing out from the list.
I know. We'll rewatch the Book of Henry.
It's just our theme for the rest of our podcasting careers.
52 weeks, 52 Book of Henry viewings.
There actually is a podcast called The Worst Decision in the World or something, which is a couple of Kiwis where they watch the same movie every week and then just chat.
All
right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you again next week.
Bye.
Hey.
Hi. There you are. All surprising, like.
I invited him. I wanted him to see my trick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you knew. I hope, is this okay?
Yeah, sure. No problem. But, I have to be a parent volunteer tonight, so, have parent volunteer things.
Okay. I'll just,